What if everything we understood about the dawn of human civilization, about our place in the vast, bewildering cosmic tapestry, was not merely incomplete, but fundamentally, startlingly, gloriously wrong? Imagine for a fleeting moment that the very bedrock of our history, those ancient tales whispered across millennia, were not quaint myths or primitive fables, but urgent dispatches, coded warnings from beings far beyond our comprehension. This isn't the stuff of science fiction paperbacks, nor the ramblings of a particularly eccentric pub philosopher. This is a journey into the heart of a cosmic mystery, a chilling whisper echoing from the distant past, suggesting that the legendary Anunnaki, those enigmatic sky gods of Sumerian lore, didn't just visit our nascent world. They left us a message, an indelible mark etched into the very fabric of the stars themselves, a forgotten warning for a future they knew would eventually arrive. Our story begins in the dusty, sun-baked plains of what is now modern-day Iraq, a land steeped in history where the cradle of civilization once thrived. It was here, in the fertile crescent between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers, that the Sumerians, an astonishingly advanced culture, burst forth onto the stage of human history with a suddenness that still confounds archaeologists and historians alike. Their knowledge of astronomy, mathematics, and intricate social structures seemed to materialize fully formed, almost as if gifted to them, rather than painstakingly developed over generations. They charted the heavens with an accuracy that would defy explanation for thousands of years, their cuneiform tablets describing a pantheon of powerful deities, the Annunaki, who descended from the heavens. These weren't ethereal spirits. The Sumerians described them with tangible, albeit awe-inspiring physical attributes, detailing their arrival in sky boats and their interactions with early humanity. They spoke of a home world, Nibiru, a celestial body on a vast elliptical orbit, a concept that even today sparks vigorous debate among those who dare to look beyond conventional narratives. The sheer detail in these ancient texts, the consistent iconography, the repetitive, almost insistent narrative of those who came from above, to guide, to teach, and perhaps to warn, presents a conundrum that academic orthodoxy struggles to reconcile. It's a puzzle piece that simply doesn't fit the prevailing historical jigsaw, an anomaly too significant to simply brush aside as mere poetic license. The air above these ancient ruins even now seems to hum with an unheard frequency, a faint reverberation of ancient engines, a spectral echo of colossal figures striding across the nascent landscape of human consciousness. The very dust underfoot feels heavy with untold secrets, the lingering scent of millennia of human curiosity and unanswered questions. This introduction, however, closes nothing. It merely opens the door, leaving us with the unsettling certainty that something far, far grander, something potentially terrifying in its cosmic implications, is poised to be unveiled. If this beginning has already made you rethink what you knew, imagine what lies ahead. So go on, don't be shy, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel, because here, every video reveals something few have the courage to show. The enigma of Sumer, then, is not merely an academic curiosity, it is a profound challenge to our understanding of human origins. Imagine the barren expanse of the Mesopotamian plain, a canvas of sun-bleached earth stretching towards a relentless horizon, the air thick with the promise of scorching heat. Suddenly, from this desolation, a civilization springs forth, not slowly emerging from hunter-gatherer roots, but arriving with an almost fully developed suite of technologies and societal structures. The Sumerians had monumental architecture in the form of towering ziggurats, immense stepped pyramids reaching towards the very skies from which their gods supposedly came. These weren't crude mud huts. These were engineering marvels, constructed with precision and a profound understanding of geometry and large-scale labor organization. Their cuneiform script, one of the earliest known forms of writing, allowed for complex record-keeping, sophisticated legal codes, and the meticulous documentation of their history and mythology. Yet it is their astronomical prowess that truly sets them apart. They possessed an intricate understanding of celestial mechanics, tracking planetary movements, predicting eclipses, and mapping constellations with a level of detail that would not be replicated for thousands of years by other civilizations using far more advanced tools. They spoke of 12 planets in our solar system, long before modern astronomy confirmed the existence of all the outer giants, hinting at an awareness that seems impossible without external aid. The Sumerian texts, carved into clay tablets with a stylus, are not vague parables. They detail specific narratives about the Anunnaki, translating as those who from heaven to earth came. These beings were described as possessing extraordinary longevity, immense power, and advanced shining technologies. They were depicted as towering figures, often with elaborate headgear, sometimes wings, and always with an air of authority and otherworldliness. Their chariots of fire, their skyboats, and their ability to manipulate the very elements are described with a consistency that transcends mere storytelling. They were said to have engineered humanity itself through genetic manipulation to serve as a labor force, a concept that resonates disturbingly with certain contemporary scientific advancements. Scholars like Zecharia Sitchin, though often relegated to the fringes of mainstream archaeology, meticulously translated these ancient texts, arguing passionately that they were not myths, but historical accounts, literal records of extraterrestrial intervention. The academic establishment, however, largely dismisses such interpretations, preferring to categorize these narratives as allegories, anthropomorphic personifications of natural forces, or simply the imaginative output of a nascent culture. They argue that attributing such advancements to external forces diminishes humanity's own intellectual achievements. Yet standing amidst the dusty ruins of Ur or Eridu today, one can almost feel the presence of those ancient architects, the echoes of their whispered conversations, the clatter of tools that might have been far more advanced than our current understanding allows. The relentless sun beats down, casting long, stark shadows across eroded bricks, and the wind, carrying the scent of dry earth and ancient secrets, seems to murmur tales of colossal beings overseeing the construction of temples, their eyes fixed not just on the terrestrial laborers, but on the distant, glittering constellations above. The debate continues, a quiet dissent among some archaeologists who, in private, admit the sheer inexplicability of Sumerian knowledge. The general academic reluctance to embrace unconventional theories is not merely about preserving tradition. It is about maintaining a paradigm, a carefully constructed narrative of human evolution that has no room for sky gods. But the questions linger, persistent and unsettling, like the distant cry of a desert bird in the pre-dawn silence. The very fabric of that ancient world, now reduced to crumbling mounds and scattered fragments, seems to vibrate with an unheard truth, a grander, more terrifying reality that our modern minds are only just beginning to contemplate. Beyond the specific narratives of Sumer, a compelling thread of celestial cartography and inexplicable astronomical anomalies weaves through the tapestries of multiple ancient civilizations. It's as if a common blueprint, a shared cosmic knowledge, was disseminated across continents long before any conceivable global communication networks existed. Consider the Egyptians, with their pyramids perfectly aligned to cardinal directions and specific constellations, particularly the Belt of Orion. The Great Pyramid of Giza, a colossus of stone and mystery, points an air shaft directly at Thuban, the North Star of 2500 BC, and another at Orion. Was this merely an impressive feat of engineering or a deliberate celestial signpost? Then there are the Mayans, whose intricate calendars predicted astronomical events with breathtaking precision, including solar and lunar eclipses and the precise cycles of Venus. Their observatories, stone structures designed for meticulous celestial tracking, were often integrated into their sacred architecture, blurring the lines between science and spiritual reverence. Their profound understanding of time and planetary movements suggests an observational capacity far beyond what their technology should have allowed. Even more intriguing is the knowledge of the Dogon tribe of Mali, a remote culture in West Africa. For centuries, their oral traditions have spoken of Sirius B, a white dwarf star that orbits Sirius A, the brightest star in our night sky. The Dogon described Sirius B as invisible and incredibly dense, a star made of the heaviest material, and spoke of its 50-year orbital period around Sirius A. Modern astronomy only confirmed the existence of Sirius B in the mid-19th century through telescopic observation and its unique properties in the 20th century. How could an isolated African tribe possess such accurate, detailed information about a star invisible to the naked eye? The sheer impossibility of their accuracy without external advanced observation or direct revelation is a stark, uncomfortable anomaly that challenges every conventional explanation. These aren't isolated incidents. Across disparate cultures, from the intricate megalithic structures of Stonehenge in Wiltshire, precisely aligned with the solstices, to the Nazca lines in Peru, vast geoglyphs depicting animals and abstract patterns visible only from an aerial perspective, a recurrent theme emerges, an obsessive, sophisticated engagement with the cosmos. It's as if ancient humanity was not just observing the stars, but responding to them, following a set of instructions or deciphering a celestial map that guided their most profound architectural and spiritual endeavors. The methodology of ancient astronomy, often described as rudimentary, using simple sighting stones or notches on horizons, simply cannot account for the astounding precision witnessed. The logistical and intellectual leap required to achieve such accuracy, particularly in predicting long-term celestial cycles, seems to defy the known timeline of human technological development. Imagine standing on a cold, clear night beneath a vast, star-studded sky, perhaps on Salisbury Plain, the ancient stones of Stonehenge silhouetted against the Milky Way. The air is crisp, carrying the earthy scent of the moorland, and the silence is broken only by the gentle rustle of the wind. You look up, seeing the same constellations our ancestors observed, but then you wonder, did they see something more? Did they perceive patterns, connections, and messages that we, in our modern hubris, have either forgotten or are simply unable to detect? The stars, those distant, twinkling pinpricks of light, held a different meaning for them. They were not just distant suns, they were perhaps the very pages of a cosmic scripture, illuminated by an unknown hand, holding secrets and potentially warnings. The lingering question is not if they looked at the stars, but what they were taught to look for and by whom. The echoes of these inexplicable alignments persist, silent monuments to a knowledge we have yet to fully reclaim. Have you ever stopped to ponder the sheer audacity of ancient minds, armed with what we consider primitive tools, charting celestial mechanics with such astonishing precision? What or who do you think truly guided their gaze towards the cosmos? Comment below if you've ever felt a shiver down your spine contemplating these ancient mysteries. If the Anunnaki did indeed exist, and if their legends are more than mere folklore, then the idea of a warning left in the stars becomes not just plausible, but deeply compelling. Why would such advanced beings, who seemingly held immense power and knowledge, feel the need to encode a message for a future humanity? What cosmic peril, what existential threat could have prompted such a profound act of foresight? Perhaps the warning was about a cyclical cosmic event, a cataclysmic solar flare, a rogue planet on a collision course, or a recurring celestial alignment that portends disaster. The Sumerian flood myth, uncannily similar to countless flood narratives across diverse cultures, could be interpreted not as divine wrath, but as a historical record of a real, recurring deluge, perhaps influenced by such a celestial event, which the Anunnaki had foreseen and sought to mitigate, or at least prepare humanity for. The consistent imagery of destroyers or world-enders in various ancient mythologies might not be abstract personifications of evil, but allegories for concrete cosmic dangers. Alternatively, the warning could be about a future danger to humanity itself, perhaps related to our own burgeoning technological capabilities. Did the Anunnaki foresee a point where human innovation, unchecked by wisdom, could lead to self-destruction? Or perhaps, more chillingly, the warning could be a cautionary tale from their own distant past, a cosmic echo of mistakes they themselves made, a desperate attempt to prevent another fledgling civilization from repeating their tragic errors. The concept of long-term planning, of encoding messages intended for a distant future, speaks to an extraordinary level of foresight and a deep understanding of geological and astronomical timescales. To craft a message that would survive millennia, enduring the relentless erosion of time, seismic shifts, and the ebb and flow of ice ages, required not just intelligence, but a profound commitment to the survival of a species not even their own. They would have needed to consider celestial drift, the precession of the equinoxes, and the gradual shifting of Earth's axial tilt to ensure the message remained legible to its intended recipients. The meticulousness required to encode such a message into the very positions and movements of stars is almost unfathomable. It would involve not merely creating a star chart, but perhaps engineering specific astronomical phenomena, guiding comets, or subtly altering the trajectory of minor celestial bodies to form patterns that would reveal themselves over vast stretches of time, detectable only by a sufficiently advanced, curious civilization. Imagine the sheer engineering feat, the almost divine control over cosmic forces required to orchestrate such a grand, slow-burning communication. But what were the Anunnaki's motives? Were they benevolent guardians, altruistically dedicated to the preservation of life in the cosmos? Were they cold, detached observers, merely leaving a scientific record for future generations like a cosmic time capsule? Or were they something far more complex, their actions driven by a blend of self-preservation, guilt, or even a subtle manipulation of nascent intelligent life for their own inscrutable ends? The psychological impact of even contemplating such a message is immense, a dizzying blend of hope and dread. Hope that we are not alone, that there is a cosmic intelligence that cares enough to reach out across the voids of space and time. Dread for the implications of the warning itself. What could be so dire that it necessitated such an extraordinary, millennia-spanning effort to communicate? The very air seems to thicken with the weight of these questions, the scent of possibility mingling with the tang of cosmic fear. It's a thought that expands the mind and simultaneously contracts the stomach, a realization that our small world, our carefully constructed reality, might be merely a footnote in a much grander and potentially perilous universal narrative. The silence of the night sky, once a source of serene contemplation, becomes pregnant with unspoken words. An ancient, distant chorus, humming a tune of caution, a forgotten melody waiting for humanity to finally listen. The quest to decipher this purported cosmic tapestry, this Anunnaki warning woven into the constellations, is a monumental undertaking that has quietly occupied the fringes of serious scholarship and captivated the imaginations of independent researchers. It involves bridging seemingly disparate fields, ancient languages, archaeoastronomy, quantum physics, and advanced computational modeling. Imagine a solitary figure, perhaps Professor Alistair Finch, a man whose tweed jacket perpetually smells faintly of old books and pipe tobacco, his spectacles perched precariously on his nose as he pores over an ancient Sumerian tablet, its cuneiform script a labyrinth of wedges and lines. Alistair, a brilliant but stubbornly independent archaeoastronomer from Oxford University, has spent his life navigating the dusty archives of the British Museum, meticulously cross-referencing astronomical charts from Babylonian clay tablets with star maps from ancient Egyptian temples. He speaks 5 dead languages fluently, a skill that grants him access to primary sources that others can only glimpse through translations, often filtered by centuries of interpretation and reinterpretation. His study, a cluttered haven in a quiet corner of his North London flat, is a testament to his obsession. Books are stacked floor to ceiling, ancient maps unfurl across every available surface, and a high-spec computer hums quietly in the corner, running complex algorithms to simulate celestial alignments thousands of years in the past. He works alongside Dr. Ilara Vance, a sharp, no-nonsense astrophysicist from University College London, whose focus is on identifying recurring patterns in the electromagnetic spectrum, looking for non-random signals that might be interpreted as deliberate constructs rather than natural phenomena. Ilara, with her sleek, modern lab, filled with blinking lights and whirring servers, complements Alistair's old-world methodology. Her expertise lies in the vastness of space, in the subtle disturbances of stellar orbits, in the spectral analysis of distant light, while Alistair delves into the dusty confines of Earth's forgotten past. Their collaboration, an unlikely alliance between parchment and plasma, is driven by a shared, almost visceral conviction that something fundamental has been missed. Their painstaking work is a daily battle against skepticism and ridicule. Alistair's papers on non-terrestrial influences on ancient celestial cartography are routinely rejected by mainstream journals, dismissed as fringe history or speculative mythology. Ilara's grant applications for unconventional pattern recognition in astronomical data are met with polite but firm refusals, the unspoken implication that she is chasing ghosts. Yet they persist. They trace recurring symbols, the winged disk, the 7-pointed star, the serpent coiled around a cosmic egg, motifs that appear independently in Sumerian, Egyptian, Mesoamerican, and even Aboriginal Australian art and mythology, all seemingly pointing to a common, non-terrestrial origin. They use advanced image processing to overlay ancient temple layouts onto celestial maps, finding uncanny correlations that defy statistical probability. For instance, the layout of certain Sumerian temples, when viewed from above, perfectly mirrors sections of the constellation Cygnus, or the Pleiades cluster. The sheer intellectual challenge is immense. It's like trying to solve a cosmic Rubik's Cube, where each face is from a different time period and a different culture, and the solution is a message written in a language that predates human speech. There are moments of crushing frustration, late nights fueled by lukewarm cuppers and stale biscuits when breakthroughs seem impossibly distant. Then, a flicker of recognition, a subtle connection between a phrase in an Akkadian tablet and a recurring numerical sequence in a Mayan calendar, or an unexpected resonance between an astronomical event described in a Sumerian myth and a specific radio burst detected by Ilara's equipment. It's in these fleeting, electrifying moments that their conviction is renewed, knowing they are on the cusp of something extraordinary, something that could fundamentally rewrite humanity's story. The scientific community's resistance isn't necessarily malicious. It's a deeply ingrained conservatism, a fear of embracing anything that smacks of the fantastical, a reluctance to dismantle the comfortable paradigms built over centuries. But Alistair and Ilara know, deep in their bones, that the truth, however unsettling, is waiting to be uncovered, patiently embedded in the cosmic echoes of a forgotten past. You just have to know where to look. Across cultures and continents, an intriguing commonality emerges in humanity's oldest narratives, the ubiquitous presence of the serpent and the dragon. These aren't merely fantastical beasts, they are deeply potent archetypes, often linked to creation, wisdom, chaos, and, crucially, destruction. Could these universal symbols, permeating myths from ancient Babylon to the far reaches of China, be echoes of the Anunnaki's forgotten warning? In Sumerian mythology, the primordial goddess Tiamat, often depicted as a sea serpent or dragon, represents the chaotic forces that predate creation, eventually vanquished by the Anunnaki deity Marduk. This conflict isn't just a battle of good versus evil. It can be interpreted as a cosmic struggle, perhaps a memory of an actual celestial event, or a struggle against an external threat. In ancient Egypt, the uraeus, the stylized, upright cobra, adorned the pharaoh's crowns, symbolizing divine authority and protection, but also destructive power, a guardian, yet a potential bringer of doom. Its presence on the forehead was a potent reminder of both life and death, creation and annihilation. Further east, the Chinese dragon, a revered symbol of power, wisdom, and good fortune, also held a duality. While often benevolent, bringing rain and prosperity, it could also unleash devastating floods and storms, elements of unpredictable, cataclysmic force. The Mesoamerican deity Quetzalcoatl, the feathered serpent god, brought knowledge and civilization, but also carried the implicit threat of retribution or a cycle of destruction and rebirth. These are not disparate, unrelated cultural imaginings. The consistent presence of a serpentine or draconic entity that embodies both creative and destructive forces, often linked to the heavens or primordial chaos, suggests a shared, deep-seated anxiety, perhaps even a collective memory of a universal phenomenon. Could these be allegories for cosmic dangers that the Anunnaki wished to convey? A massive asteroid impact, reminiscent of a sky serpent descending to wreak havoc? A recurring solar flare cycle, like a dragon's fiery breath scorching the earth? Or perhaps the serpent represents a more insidious threat, a cyclical pattern of societal collapse, or a warning about internal human failings amplified to catastrophic proportions. The psychological archetypes at play are profound. Humanity's innate fear of the unknown, of that which lurks just beyond the veil of perception, is often personified in these powerful, ancient symbols. If an external, intelligent presence, like the Anunnaki, did interact with early humans, it is entirely plausible that they would have used such potent, easily graspable imagery to convey complex warnings. Rather than speaking in terms of astrophysics or orbital mechanics, they might have communicated through vivid, archetypal narratives that would resonate across generations, embedded within the cultural DNA of nascent civilizations. The stories passed down orally for centuries before being carved into stone or written on papyrus would naturally evolve, becoming myths, but retaining a core message. Imagine the Anunnaki, observing humanity's early struggles, understanding the cyclical nature of cosmic perils, and choosing to encode their message not just in the stars, but in the very stories we tell ourselves, in the symbols we intuitively recognize. The scent of fear, ancient and primal, seems to linger in these narratives, a subtle hint of the immense forces at play. These are not just bedtime stories. They are survival guides cloaked in mythology, patiently waiting for a generation sophisticated enough to see beyond the literal serpent and understand the deeper, more terrifying truth it represents. They are a stark reminder that sometimes the most profound truths are hidden in plain sight, woven into the very fabric of our earliest memories, beckoning us to decipher their true meaning before it's too late. What if these ancient tales of serpents and dragons are not just folklore, but direct warnings from those who saw cosmic dangers firsthand? If you've made it this far without pausing, it's because this narrative has undeniably resonated with you, stirring something deep within. So go on, strengthen this vital content, hit that like button right now and share it with someone who absolutely needs to see this, someone who might finally understand. While ancient texts and celestial alignments offer compelling, albeit controversial clues, the search for the Anunnaki's forgotten warning takes on a distinctly modern turn when we consider the whispers in the electromagnetic spectrum. What if the message isn't etched in stone or written in star positions, but is an energy signature, a repeating pattern in radio waves, or a celestial phenomenon deliberately orchestrated and amplified to be detected by a technologically advanced civilization? This is where the efforts of organizations like SETI, Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence, intersect perhaps unknowingly with the ancient astronaut hypothesis. SETI's vast radio telescopes, like colossal ears pointed at the heavens, tirelessly scan the cosmic static, listening for any non-random signal, any artificial pattern that would betray the presence of intelligent life beyond Earth. The challenge is immense. The sheer vastness of interstellar space, the mind-boggling distances involved, mean that any communication would have to be incredibly powerful and precisely aimed to be detectable across light years. But what if the Anunnaki possessed technology capable of just that? What if they could manipulate stellar emissions, creating subtle rhythmic fluctuations in a star's light, or orchestrating powerful, repeating radio bursts that would cut through the cosmic background noise? Astronomers have, in recent years, encountered phenomena that defy easy explanation, anomalies that tease the imagination and push the boundaries of conventional astrophysics. Take, for instance, the infamous Tabby's star, KIC 8462852, which exhibited inexplicable and dramatic dips in its brightness, unlike any other known star. While scientific consensus leans towards natural explanations like cometary swarms, the initial speculative whispers about megastructures or Dyson spheres built by an advanced civilization resonated profoundly with those seeking evidence of extraterrestrial engineering. Could such an anomaly, or one even more subtle, be a deliberate beacon, a cosmic lighthouse broadcasting a message across the ages? Ilara Vance, the astrophysicist, spent countless hours poring over reams of data from remote observatories in the Chilean desert and the Welsh mountains. Her screens glowed with intricate spectrograms, chaotic energy spikes, and baffling patterns. She wasn't looking for a direct hello, but rather for deviations, for an unnatural order amidst the cosmic chaos. A consistent, non-random prime number sequence embedded within a recurring radio burst, or a precisely modulated energy pulse emanating from a specific celestial coordinate that aligns uncannily with an ancient Sumerian star chart. These are the kinds of ghostly whispers she hunts. The technology involved is mind-boggling, requiring petabytes of data storage and processing power from supercomputers that hum with the collective hopes and fears of humanity. The search is relentless, a monumental exercise in patience, scanning the heavens day in and day out for a signal that might have traveled for thousands of years, patiently waiting for an ear to listen. The very idea of an electromagnetic warning poses fascinating questions about the Anunnaki's foresight. They would have needed to predict the future trajectory of human technology, understanding that one day we would develop the means to detect such signals. They would have needed to choose a medium that would endure cosmic interference, galactic shifts, and the simple decay of time. The sheer audacity of such an endeavor speaks volumes about their capabilities and their motivation. Imagine the silence of Ilara's lab, broken only by the gentle whirring of machines and the occasional click of her keyboard, as she zeroes in on a particularly intriguing anomaly. Her fingers hover over the keyboard, her heart thumping a frantic rhythm against her ribs. The air is charged with anticipation, a faint ozone scent from the electronics hanging heavy. Is this it? Is this the moment? Is this the forgotten voice of the Anunnaki, finally breaking through the cosmic static, bearing a message meant only for us? You already know that this content has struck a chord. Are you ready for what comes next? Write, "This is unbelievable," in the comments, just so I know you're right there with me on this extraordinary journey. Into this cosmic detective story steps Professor Alistair Finch, the guardian of lost knowledge, a character who embodies the relentless human quest for truth against overwhelming odds. Alistair isn't a conventional academic. He's more of a cosmic archaeologist, digging through layers of time and myth to unearth a profound, unsettling reality. His existence is a testament to unwavering dedication, a man utterly consumed by the pursuit of an uncomfortable truth. His home, a sprawling Victorian terraced house in Islington, North London, feels less like a residence and more like a living library. Every surface is laden with books, ancient maps, reproductions of cuneiform tablets, and arcane scientific instruments. The air in his study is thick with the scent of aged paper, leather-bound tomes, and the subtle, earthy aroma of the peat he sometimes burns in his fireplace on particularly chilly evenings. Dust motes dance in the shafts of sunlight that pierce through the tall, grimy windows, illuminating a world both antiquated and technologically advanced. Alistair himself is a figure of quiet intensity. His greying hair is perpetually dishevelled. His tweed jackets often sport a stray piece of chalk or a forgotten biscuit crumb, and his spectacles are always slightly askew, as if his mind is too busy processing complex data to bother with trivial sartorial details. He lives a solitary life, punctuated only by his occasional, intensely focused collaborations with Ilara Vance. Social gatherings are a chore, small talk, an alien language. His passion leaves little room for the mundane. He's faced ridicule and professional isolation throughout his career, his theories often dismissed as pseudoscience by his peers in prestigious university common rooms, who would rather discuss the latest football results or the price of property in Chelsea. Yet he carries the weight of his conviction with quiet dignity, a silent sentinel standing guard over knowledge he believes is crucial for humanity's future. His only companions are his books, his complex theories, and the ghosts of the Annunaki he so diligently seeks. His breakthrough moment, when it finally arrived, was not a sudden flash of divine inspiration, but the culmination of decades of meticulous, painstaking work. It happened one dreary Tuesday afternoon, the kind where London's sky presses down like a damp grey blanket and the chill seeps into the bones. Alistair was cross-referencing a newly translated Akkadian astronomical text which detailed a specific celestial event involving a fiery serpent passing near a particular star cluster, with Ilara's recent detection of an anomalous, repeating radio signature originating from that very same star cluster. His fingers, gnarled from years of tracing ancient scripts, trembled slightly as he scrolled through Ilara's data, his eyes darting between the centuries-old text and the blinking numbers on his screen. A faint ozone smell from his ancient, humming computer filled the air. He noticed a peculiar resonance, a vibrational frequency described in the Akkadian text as the serpent song, which precisely matched the modulated frequency of Ilara's radio signal. It was a faint, almost imperceptible overlap, a whisper across millennia. More importantly, the astronomical coordinates in the ancient text, when adjusted for stellar drift over 6,000 years, pointed exactly to the source of Ilara's anomaly. A cold shiver ran down his spine, a visceral reaction that bypassed his intellectual filters. This wasn't coincidence. This was deliberate. The fiery serpent was not a mythical creature, but a cosmic object, and its song was a modulated radio signal. The scent of an impending storm seemed to press in from outside, mirroring the tempest brewing within his mind. In that moment, Alistair understood. The Anunnaki had encoded their warning not just in the stars, but in a multi-layered, multi-sensory way, weaving it into human consciousness through myth and into the cosmic background through technology. His breath caught in his throat, a gasp stifled by the enormity of the discovery. All the years of ridicule, the lonely hours, the self-doubt, vanished in that singular, breathtaking instant of profound clarity. The responsibility of this knowledge settled upon him, heavy and suffocating like a lead blanket. He knew, with an absolute certainty, that he had stumbled upon something that would change everything, something that humanity was perhaps not yet ready to face. The truth, in its raw, unfiltered glory, was terrifying. The ninth topic in this unfolding cosmic drama, poised to leave questions lingering in the air and open pathways for startling new interpretations, brings us to the precipice of a revelation. Professor Finch, with Ilara Vance at his side, has connected the fragments, woven the threads of ancient myth and modern science into a tapestry that, while incomplete, presents a disturbing, undeniable pattern. The fiery serpent of the Akkadian texts and the anomalous radio signature are inextricably linked, forming the first decipherable phrases of the Anunnaki's forgotten warning. But the message, as it slowly emerges from the statistical noise and the linguistic puzzles, is not what they or anyone expected. It's not a simple "beware of X" or a direct command. It's something far more complex, a dilemma, a choice, and a reflection. The implications ripple outwards, threatening to shatter not just scientific paradigms, but the very foundations of human identity. The partial decipherment suggests that the warning isn't solely from the Anunnaki about an external threat. Instead, it seems to be about them, or perhaps about a shared cosmic struggle against an entity or force far older and more formidable than even the Anunnaki themselves. The ancient texts, particularly a recently translated fragment of a Sumerian epic that speaks of the Great Sundering, hints at a profound schism within the Anunnaki ranks, a catastrophic internal conflict that forced them to leave their homeworld, and perhaps ultimately our own. This internal strife, the message implies, was driven by a fundamental disagreement about how to confront a lurking cosmic predator, a shadow eater that consumes civilizations and leaves only dust. The Anunnaki's warning isn't just about an approaching external danger, it's a cautionary tale about the perils of division, hubris, and the desperate choices made when facing an overwhelming existential threat. The fiery serpent isn't just a physical comet or a star. It's also a metaphor for this shadow eater, its song, a gravitational hum, a destructive frequency. Ilara's data corroborates this chilling interpretation. Her analysis of the radio signal reveals not just a pattern, but a narrative structure, a complex mathematical language embedded within the electromagnetic pulses. It speaks of cyclical patterns of expansion and contraction in the cosmos, of consuming darknesses that sweep through galactic sectors, leaving behind sterile voids. It suggests that the Anunnaki, despite their advanced technology, were not immune to this force, and their visit to Earth might have been less about colonization and more about a desperate attempt to seed life elsewhere, to preserve knowledge, or even to hide from this relentless cosmic hunter. The feeling in Alistair's study is now thick with more than just the scent of old paper. It's tinged with a palpable sense of cosmic dread, a cold fear that transcends human scale. The revelation changes everything. It reframes the Anunnaki not as benevolent gods or harsh masters, but as fellow survivors burdened by an unspeakable past, leaving behind breadcrumbs of their trauma and their wisdom. The warning isn't a simple instruction manual for survival. It's a profound meditation on the nature of existence in a hostile universe, a stark reminder that even the most advanced civilizations can fall. It leaves behind more questions than answers. What became of the Anunnaki themselves? Is the Shadow Eater still out there? And what is humanity's role in this grand, terrifying cosmic drama that predates our very species? The air crackles with the silent thunder of these unanswered questions, each one heavier than the last. The scent of ozone from Ilara's equipment and the musty odor of ancient papyrus seem to mingle, creating a strange, almost intoxicating perfume of imminent discovery and profound unease. The path ahead is shrouded in shadow, but the first terrifying glimpse of the truth has been laid bare. It is a bridge, not to a conclusion, but to an even deeper mystery, beckoning us forward into the unknown. The nature of the threat hinted at in the Anunnaki's complex, partially deciphered message sends a chilling ripple through Alistair and Ilara's understanding. It's not a simple astronomical phenomenon like a rogue planet or a supervolcano, nor is it a conventional hostile alien invasion force. The Shadow Eater, described in the Sumerian epic and corroborated by the mathematical patterns in Ilara's data, is something far more terrifying, something that operates on a cosmological scale, fundamentally different from anything humanity has ever conceived. The message suggests a kind of existential void, a devourer of energy and information, capable of erasing civilizations from existence, leaving behind no trace but the lingering echo of its passage. Is not an entity with ships or weapons, but a force, perhaps a fundamental aspect of cosmic entropy accelerated, that systematically unweaves the fabric of intelligence and order. Imagine a darkness that doesn't just block light, but actively consumes it, leaving behind a cold, silent vacuum. This Shadow Eater seems to target not just physical planets, but the very consciousness and knowledge accumulated by intelligent life, effectively performing a cosmic reset. The Anunnaki's accounts speak of entire star systems falling silent, of once vibrant galactic sectors becoming barren and lifeless, not through war or natural disaster, but through a gradual, inevitable fading, as if the very will to exist had been siphoned away. The urgency in the Anunnaki's fragmented warning is palpable, a desperate plea for recognition, for understanding, before the same fate befalls humanity. It suggests that the fiery serpent metaphor refers not to a single physical object, but to the leading edge of this consuming darkness, a wave of profound, universal decay. The scale of this challenge is overwhelming. What can humanity, a species still grappling with its own internal divisions and ecological crises, do against a cosmic force capable of extinguishing entire civilizations? The limited time available, perhaps mere centuries before this Shadow Eater reaches our galactic neighborhood, adds a frantic beat to the unfolding drama. The global implications are staggering. If such a warning were definitively confirmed, what would be the immediate human reaction? Would it be widespread panic, leading to societal collapse and the very self-destruction the Anunnaki seem to caution against? Or would it be an unprecedented surge of unity, a global effort to pool resources, knowledge, and ingenuity to face an existential threat together? The history of humanity, however, suggests the former is tragically more likely. The scent of fear, now mingled with the acrid smell of ozone and the metallic tang of despair, seems to permeate Alistair's study. The Anunnaki's message connects back to ancient myths of destruction and rebirth, but with a terrifying twist. These weren't just cautionary tales about human hubris, they were echoes of actual cosmic cycles, memories of previous encounters with the Shadow Eater passed down through generations. The deluge, the great fires, the long nights, these might not have been isolated events, but recurring manifestations of this consuming darkness, albeit on a smaller, localized scale. The Anunnaki, it seems, were not gods who created or saved, but advanced beings who understood these cycles, who fought to survive them, and who desperately hoped to warn others. Their great sundering may have been their own desperate, fragmented attempt to escape, to scatter knowledge and genetic material across the cosmos in a futile bid to outrun the inevitable. The moral weight of this looming shadow presses down on Alistair and Ilara. They are no longer just scholars or scientists. They are reluctant prophets, burdened with a truth that could either unite humanity or tear it apart. The warning is not about a physical enemy to be fought with weapons, but a cosmic inevitability to be understood and perhaps outwitted through a profound shift in consciousness and purpose. The Anunnaki, through their forgotten message, have presented humanity with the ultimate test: to overcome its petty differences and face a universal challenge, or to succumb to the consuming darkness that waits patiently in the cosmic void. What would you do if you knew a threat of this magnitude was slowly but surely making its way towards Earth? Would you despair, or would you fight? Comment if you believe humanity could unite in the face of such a cosmic danger. The weight of this revelation, the profound, terrifying truth of the Anunnaki's warning, falls squarely upon Alistair Finch and Ilara Vance, transforming them into reluctant modern-day oracles. Their struggle to be heard, to convey a truth that defies conventional understanding, becomes a new and formidable battle. The scientific establishment, steeped in its cautious empiricism and often resistant to paradigm-shifting ideas, reacts with predictable skepticism, if not outright hostility. Alistair's carefully constructed papers, infused with the newly deciphered Anunnaki message, are met with a barrage of dismissive reviews, labeled as speculative fiction or unsubstantiated claims. His peers, those who once tolerated his eccentricities for the sake of his undeniable brilliance, now view him with thinly veiled pity, sometimes outright scorn. The quiet whispers in university common rooms turn into louder, more public denunciations, threatening his professional reputation, the very bedrock of his academic life. Ilara faces similar resistance in her astrophysics community. Her data, while technically sound and meticulously analyzed, points to conclusions that are simply too far-fetched for mainstream acceptance. Anomalies are always sought, but anomalies that suggest a cosmic warning from an ancient extraterrestrial civilization are beyond the pale. She finds her grant proposals quietly shelved, her collaborations drying up, her once promising career now teetering on the brink. The smell of fear, not just of the shadow eater, but of professional ruin, hangs heavy in the air around them. Yet they persevere, driven by an unshakable conviction that this knowledge is too vital, too profound, to remain buried. They understand that the media, always hungry for sensationalism, could be a double-edged sword. It could bring awareness, but also trivialize or distort their message into tabloid fodder. Their home, Alistair's cluttered Islington flat, becomes their command center, a besieged fortress against a world unwilling to listen. Late nights are spent discussing strategy, debating the ethics of going public, weighing the potential for global panic against the imperative to warn. The aroma of stale coffee and desperation fills the air. They consider approaching reputable scientific journals, knowing full well the gauntlet they will have to run. They draft compelling presentations, hoping to sway influential academics at prestigious conferences, but even there, they are often relegated to obscure panels, their insights dismissed as the musings of a fringe minority. Alistair, usually so composed, finds himself pacing his study, his hands clenching and unclenching, the weight of humanity's potential ignorance a crushing burden. He sometimes allows himself a moment of doubt, gazing out at the rain-slicked London streets, wondering if he's simply gone mad, if the decades of searching have finally broken his mind. But then he remembers the chilling precision of the Anunnaki message, the uncanny alignment of ancient texts with modern astrophysics, the sheer statistical improbability of it all being coincidence, and his resolve solidifies. Ilara, with her steely determination, urges a more direct, unconventional approach. They begin to leak fragments of their research to independent journalists, to online communities dedicated to unexplained phenomena, knowing the risks involved. They choose to go public, not with a flourish, but with a quiet, insistent trickle of information, hoping to bypass the gatekeepers of conventional science and appeal directly to a global public. The moral dilemma is profound. To share a terrifying truth, knowing it could trigger widespread fear and instability, or to keep it hidden for humanity's peace of mind, potentially condemning future generations to face the Shadow Eater unprepared. They choose the former, believing that humanity, however flawed, deserves the truth, however uncomfortable. The scent of an approaching storm, both literal and metaphorical, hangs heavy in the air, as Alistair and Ilara prepare to unleash a cosmic truth that could reshape human destiny. The Anunnaki's warning, or at least the profound, unsettling idea of it, has now been cast into the swirling maelstrom of human consciousness. The meticulously deciphered fragments, the celestial alignments, the uncanny electromagnetic echoes, all point to a cosmic truth far grander and more terrifying than humanity was prepared to acknowledge. The Shadow Eater looms, a conceptual sword of Damocles hanging over our fragile blue planet, a universal truth laid bare by the persistence of two ordinary yet extraordinary individuals. Humanity is now faced with a choice, a fundamental fork in its evolutionary path. Will it heed the ancient echoes, overcome its inherent divisions, and unite in the face of an existential threat that transcends all borders and ideologies? Or will it succumb to panic, cynicism, and the very internal strife that the Anunnaki themselves seem to caution against, ultimately fulfilling a cosmic prophecy of self-destruction? The ending is not one of neat resolution or comfortable closure. The threat is still very much present. The Shadow Eater continues its relentless, silent advance, and the Anunnaki's message remains incomplete, a complex puzzle with many missing pieces. But awareness has been ignited, a spark of understanding in the vast darkness. The foundations of certainty have been shaken, and the questions linger, more potent and urgent than ever before. What further secrets do the stars hold? What other warnings have been left undiscovered, awaiting the awakening of human consciousness? The journey of discovery is far from over. It has, in fact, only just begun. The universe, we now realize, is not a silent, empty canvas, but a vast, interconnected library, filled with ancient texts, cosmic signals, and forgotten wisdom, patiently waiting for us to learn its language. The Anunnaki, those enigmatic beings from the distant past, through their meticulous, millennia-spanning effort, have left humanity a legacy of both terror and profound opportunity. Their warning is a testament to the interconnectedness of all intelligent life, a stark reminder that our species, however advanced, is but a small part of a much larger, more perilous cosmic drama. It compels us to look beyond our immediate concerns, to gaze at the night sky not with complacency, but with a renewed sense of wonder, urgency, and humility. The stars, those glittering jewels in the cosmic crown, are no longer just distant points of light. They are the pages of an ancient scripture, a message from beyond, a forgotten warning from a civilization that walked among us, that guided us, and that perhaps, in its final desperate act, tried to save us. The journey into the cosmic unknown continues, beckoning us to decipher the remaining fragments, to complete the Anunnaki's unfinished symphony before the final consuming silence falls. If this content has truly opened your mind and resonated deeply within you, please take a moment. Comment below, "I made it to the end." This simple act helps us understand who truly seeks knowledge, who dares to look beyond the surface. Give the video a like if it made you think differently, if it stirred your curiosity, if it made you question. Subscribe to the channel now and activate that bell, because the next episodes in this extraordinary journey will delve even further, revealing truths you never imagined possible. And don't stop there. Click on the content that's already waiting for you on screen. It's the logical continuation of what you've just experienced. Trust me, you won't want to stop here.